Thanks for joining us. I'm just gonna, while we wait for our dinner, I'm just gonna mention a few thanks to our sponsors.
Is your mic on?
Yep.
Yeah?
It's online.
Oh, okay, start.
I'll speak louder. I'll use my coaching voice then. Thank you. I prefer to do that. As everyone knows, this year for the Ontario chapter, we've chosen to structure our educational discussions around Lean and Six Sigma. We've had great feedback on that. We have a terrific speaker, Marco will introduce. So we have several educational sessions aligned for 2023. So be sure to be on our website or follow our social media posts for those dates and confirmations of those dates. Firstly, I'd like to thank Marco and Frank's Windows and Doors for a terrific tour this morning. I think everyone could see the progress of what Lean and Six Sigma manufacturing can lead to and beyond. You know, I was really surprised, like one thing I was saying, I've toured a lot of window factories over 25 years and, you know, everything was just smooth and there's like an ebb and flow amongst the workers, amongst the material, the processing. I thought it looked really good. So thank you very much, Marco.
Appreciate it.
As well, we do have a few key sponsors today. So I know some of the sponsors, if you have a representative here and you'd like to come up and have a little segue, please feel free. So firstly, we have Preference North America as a sponsor for this event. QAI, well, thank you very much. Sherwin-Williams, Maria, thank you. ScreenCo, Jamie, there you are. Thank you. And as well as we have Roto North America, sponsor. Thank you very much.
I think we have an area. GB wanted to see.
Oh, you want to come on up, Maria, for a sec?
Just take it off him. Jason, Mike.
That's cool.
And yes, I am standing. Does that work? Oh, okay. I just wanted to say thank you all for coming out today to support Fenestration Canada and the events that they do organize. And particularly today, it's the Ontario chapter event. Sherwin-Williams is a proud sponsor with Fenestration Canada, so you'll be seeing our presence and our support throughout the year. I see some of my customers here, so thank you very much for coming out today to support Fenestration Canada, and thank you for supporting Sherwin-Williams in your business. If there's any questions with regards to coatings, please feel free to speak to me throughout the day, and my colleague, Jason Bradley. So Jason, he is your local Ontario GTA representative. So without further ado, I'll invite Jamie to come up, and thank you very much for supporting Fenestration Canada and the Ontario chapter.
Hi, for those that don't know me, I'm Jamie Tilley and I work for ScreenCo, and we're also a very proud sponsor of Fenestration Canada and all the events that they have during the year. For those of you that don't know what ScreenCo do, we are a roll forming company that does custom roll forming, core reinforcement channel, grill bar, window screens, and patio door screens. We also fabricate. So it's a pleasure to be a part of this great association. And for those of you who haven't joined, make sure that you join this year because you will get a lot of benefit out of the association.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Chad Hackman, product manager over at Roto Fasco Canada. May know a lot of you through supply of hardware, and I'd just like to talk about a few new products that we have available now and coming out with in the next few months. First, in the swing door category, we have our HPD1 platform. It's for hinge patio door in a 304 stainless steel. Available in tongues, chute bolts, or tongue and chute bolt locking points. Door height range of 6 to 10 feet. Reversible mishandling device and latch, so one SKU. Intuitive deadbolt operation, cylinder below handle, 92 PZ. standard handle height of 36 inches, and an inactive flush bolt system as well. Also in the swing door category, our solid B swing door hinge for alu and PVC. The solid B hinges, the basic system is structured so that all adjustment mechanisms are housed within the cylindrical part of the hinge. It's an easy and cost-effective implementation. No axis offset, no gaps in the cylindrical barrel by adjustment. The hinge appearance is always the same regardless of the adjustment. Lateral and height adjustment possible when closed. The hinge cylindrical barrel diameter is roughly 1 inch. 2-part hinge has a max of 100 kilograms, and 3-part hinge a max of 120 kilograms, using 2 hinges per sash. In the hung window category, our duo tilt is a zinc alloy sash lock compatible with PVC profiles. We're also developing for other systems as well. 2 sash locks are needed for all window widths, left hand and a right hand. Intuitive operation with lock and tilt latch actuation. Visual sash lock markings to note window status, locked, unlocked, or tilt. Tactile lever feedback indicates when the lock has changed position. The tilt latch and connector are pre-assembled for easy installation and connection to the sash lock. And it's tested internally at 10,000 cycles as per FER testing and ASTM. Patent pending design, available in 8 finishes, and a passive sash lock also accompanies it. In the casement category, our OP10 operator is now out. Fits into aluminum profiles with tight hardware cavities, requiring 1/8 less cavity height over other roto operators. Features available in powder coat steel and stainless steel options. Features fully sealed housing to protect against elements. Split arm, single arm, and awning variants offered in a variety of colors. Detachable operator cover caps not required. Optional gasket and fixing plate are available, and standard pre-threaded screws mounted for clean look. Simple window routing options for easy installation, and color matched fixed handle available as well. And this is NAF certified. Also in the casement category, our low profile locking handle, again, zinc alloy housing. Minimum 11 millimeter projection and flared lever allows easy operation of the handle. The non-handed multi-point locks allow for easy ordering process. Handed single point lock. Brush seal handle plate helps to prevent bug infiltration. You can see that on the right. Provides total 40 millimeters of travel. Sorry, 44 millimeters of travel. And a tactile detent indicates switch from locked to unlocked position. Available in 7 finishes. In the awning category, our new awning clip and bracket, our new all stainless steel bracket, stronger and more durable than the current awning connection. Surface mount and dual mount options. And the awning bracket features a center mark for easy installation. In the sliding door category, we have a traditional handle. This is again zinc die cast, available in powder coat finishes. Architectural finishes will be offered as well with demand. Works with common 3-hole milling application with an additional support hole below. Keyed and non-keyed options are available as well as dummy sets. In our heavy sliding door category for lift and slide for allo and PVC, our patio lift system for aluminum and PVC and also wood systems, slim version for narrow profiles, 16 millimeter roller unit for extremely narrow profiles, stainless steel plus versions with increased corrosion protection, design locking version, combination of striker finish with the frame and Espagnet side locking cam. And our NOAA 400 system. Currently, we offer the 200 system, and the 400 system is now available. It's an extension. The expansion of the application of range for larger sliding elements, which we all are seeing, with higher weights. For all materials, aluminum, PVC, or timber, high quality, durable roller unit technology for quiet, convenient sliding. And it's also usable with the soft close, soft open, and soft stop. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. And again, thanks to all our sponsors. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here today. So thank you very much. I think now we're just going to move forward to eating lunch. And then once lunch commences, we'll move forward with our special guest speaker. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. I started my lean manufacturing journey at U of T. He was my instructor. For whatever reason, he's kept in contact with me. I don't know. I can't get with this guy. Terrible joke. But anyways, he's the best at what he does. You know, he's a black belt. He does this for his living. He's passionate about it. And I guess we'll see very shortly how much knowledge this gentleman has. Feel free to ask questions at the end. Let's hold off, but he's going to take us on an introductory journey, essentially the value proposition associated with it and what to look for. So without further ado, thank you for coming. So
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. And welcome to this session. So I'd like to just say, first off, thank you. Thank you, Marco, for this opportunity. I'm really excited about times like this, moments like this, when we all, almost like an association as an industry, come together to collectively think about our future, right? The power of an industry coming together collectively and looking ahead and thinking about how we can move ahead, not just individually, but actually as a community and as an industry, and how we can think about reshaping and taking our own destinies into our own hands. Just a really, really exciting time for me. And so thank you for this opportunity. Really excited to be here. Just one or two quick things. Marco, you said that, we'll have time for questions at the end for sure. But if there is an immediate question that you have that adds to the conversation, I really don't mind if you just raise your hand and say, can I just ask for a little clarification? Because I'd really like for this to be almost like a little bit of a dialogue that we have here. I'm going to take you through a little journey about what continuous improvement and lean and Six Sigma, what this is all about, right? All these fancy terms, right? What is it all about? And how do we think about this from our everyday work? This is really what I want to do. So feel free to interrupt, raise your hand, and we'll bring around a microphone for questions. I'm going to take about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, take you through a few slides, a few thoughts, just to get us going. And then we'll have time, dedicated time at the end for Q&A as well. All right, sound good? All right. So to get us started, maybe I want to tell you a little bit about myself, not because this is about me at all, but because I'd like you to, I've learned a lot through my own personal journey as a Lean Six Sigma practitioner and as a coach over the last 23 years that I've been doing this work. Okay, so I'd like to tell you just very quickly about my own personal journey, my own personal story. I used to work 23 years ago in a hotel, downtown Toronto, in a place called the Westin Habercastle Hotel. Anyone of you been inside the Westin Habercastle? A few times? All right, awesome. It's been around for quite a while. Yeah? Right. The restaurant's still up there. It doesn't revolve anymore. Yes. Doesn't revolve anymore. It was a 2-horsepower motor that revolved that whole restaurant. And it broke down. We just didn't know how to fix it. So we said, forget about that. Anyway, that restaurant's still there. Actually, they won a Michelin star for that restaurant last year. So still very much there. Others, anybody else have any sound bites about the Westin Harbor Castle? You've been inside. How is it? Great bathrooms. Yes. Okay. Very good. You stayed in no. Okay. Just the regular washroom. Okay. All right. So let me tell you let me tell you just a little bit about the Westin. Okay. And the reason why I'm telling you, giving you a little bit of detail about this hotel. We were a 4-diamond 5-star hotel. We'd been around for about 40 years, and huge monstrosity of hotel. 1,180 rooms. Huge meeting facilities, big banquet halls like this one here. But just that our largest room took 5,000 people. We had a second room that took 4,500 people, and a third room that took 3,500 people. 11,000 people could be in conference at the same time, and 1,100 people could stay with us at the hotel. So you can imagine, big monstrosity of an operation, been around for 40 years. We were a Westin. Westins are kind of high-end hotels, quite what I call chic kind of hotels, not just the bathrooms, but also the rooms were quite nice, recently renovated. We had, in the year 2000, just introduced what was called at that time the world's most comfortable hotel bed. It was called the Heavenly Bed, the Westin Heavenly Bed. Some of you, if you've ever stayed in a Westin hotel anywhere in the world now, they all have them. We were the first ones to have the Westin Heavenly Bed. We were a really well-run hotel. Okay, last 40 years, customers would always say, the Westin Harbor Castle, really good service. Our food was really good. Our restaurants revolved, or sometimes did not. Okay, but as a hotel, we would find that our customers were happy with us. We had a very, very stable workforce. Many, many, many employees had been there for 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. Is that an important thing? To have happy employees, stable workforce? Why is that? Why is that? They stay with you, the knowledge stays with you, they remain dedicated to you, they're loyal to the organization. Okay? An organization that runs well keeps their employees happy. It's fundamental, very simple concept of any business, irrespective of what we do. Our customers were happy, our employees were happy. And as a result, at the hotel, we would make a lot of money. We used to sell our rooms at $185 on average through the year. Our average room rate, $185. It would cost us $35 for one room for one night. Everything else was profit in our jeans. Happy place to be. When customers are happy, employees are happy, and your financial stakeholders and owners are happy, isn't it? But isn't that the basic of every business? Irrespective of what you do, whether you're in manufacturing, services, transactional, knowledge, even if you're a not-for-profit organization or you're a government organization, those fundamentals remain. Three core customer groups: the customers that you serve, your own employees, and your financial stakeholders. You need to satisfy all three of those. It was in that situation that we as a hotel 22 years ago realized that even though we're doing well, and this is the really key point here today for me, all of you, even though we were doing so well, we asked ourselves, how are we going to get better? Do you think that every organization needs to get better, even if you're doing well? There's always room, you think? There's always room for improvement? There's always room for continuous improvement. Is that right? Is there just a room for continuous improvement, or do you have to improve? You become complacent, but can you not maintain? Here's the real question. Very, very good point. Thank you for that. Can you not just maintain things the way they are? Can we not just keep things going? The reality is this, that a system, an organization, a process, anything, if it's not improving, you're actually by itself, it cannot remain stable, then you're falling behind. Your competition is moving ahead, your customers are asking for more, and your own organization is getting complacent. The need for continuous improvement, therefore, we realized in a hotel at that time, 20 years ago. It is not a nice to have, but it needs to become a mandatory thing that we learn to do. The challenge, though, for most organizations, and this was ours as well at the hotel, was not just that we did not it was not active in our minds, but also when we started to think about it, how do we get better? How does an organization improve? Intellectually, we might all, as leaders, acknowledge the fact that I need to get better, but how do you get better? Today, I'm going to challenge you all with here's what actually happens in typical organization. We have the same problems over and over and over again, year after year after year. And what do? To get better, we say, we're going to try harder. We're going to have more eyeballs on this, more audit, more pressure. Let's try again and again. Do the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result, rather than find a way to rethink how we're doing things. That was our starting point. Okay? I got into this, got trained as a black belt, and suddenly start to realize, as a hotel, we were not doing anything right. When you actually start to look at processes, and when you actually start to look at things that we were doing in the hotel for the last 40 years, as a black belt, I started to challenge simple things. Most of you stayed in a hotel. Here's a simple example, a very, very simple example of how hotels just never rethink things. So many of us know that a hotel will give you a little bottle of shampoo. Yes? What do you do with that shampoo bottle? You shampoo your hair. Where do you shampoo your hair? Usually in the shower. But where is this bottle kept? On the sink, right next to, on the counter, right next to the sink. Is that the logical place for this bottle of shampoo to be? Or your bath soap to be on the counter? And yet this is what every hotel, everywhere in the world has done for the last 50 years. Why do they do it? Well, that's where we've always kept it. Is that where your customer wants it? Is that where it's used? No, it's not. Suddenly you start to look at things and you say, why are we doing what we're doing? And is there a better, faster, easier, cheaper, better way for us to do just the simple things that we do? Okay, this is what this journey is all about. I've spent the last 23 years working in organizations of every sort and kind all across Canada, from manufacturing organizations that do large volume to very, very specialized low volume manufacturing, to service organizations, knowledge, transactional, all sorts of companies all across Canada and all across the world over the last 23 years. I've also been involved with training programs with Lean and Six Sigma, as well as helping organizations think through how to connect this work, the continuous improvement work, with the strategy of the organization. How will you succeed? Where is your niche? And how do you actually win the market, win your customers, and win the preference of your customers? Okay, this is the work that I've been doing. I also, of course, teach at a couple of universities, and that's where, of course, I had the opportunity to meet with Marco. So as we think about this journey, I'd like to start today by talking a little bit about this continuous improvement thing that we're talking about. I believe that this is a limitless and incurable human spirit. We as human beings, each one of us and each one of the people that we lead in our own organizations, we all want to do better and better and better. Do you agree with this? How many of you are completely satisfied with pretty much any aspect of your life? Anyone? How many of you think that healthcare in Canada is just fine, does not need to improve anymore? Or our government doesn't need to improve anymore? Or our cell phone doesn't need to improve anymore? Or your car doesn't need to improve anymore? Or just about anything else doesn't need to improve anymore, despite the fact that today what we have as a society and as a human civilization is better than any other time in human history. And yet everything in our life we look at and say we are chronically dissatisfied with. Yes. And this is not new. This is not a modern day situation. This is not a capitalist view. This is not the result of the Industrial Revolution. The same thing started way back at the dawn of human civilization, 4,500 years ago, in the Middle Ages of the ancient Egyptian civilization, as they built the pyramids in Egypt. What do we see? A huge, big pyramid was built. 20,000 men working in the hot Egyptian desert for 20 years, put in place approximately 2 million blocks of stone in precise symmetry for their king. And when the next king came along, what do you think he said? I want it bigger. Right away, we know. I like this. I want one too. But God forbid this be the same size. Right? Mine needs to be bigger. Bigger and better and built faster and fancier. And I want more rooms, more stuff in it for my afterlife. And I want one with a big cat sitting on right outside, right? Whatever it is, they wanted better and better and better. Today, we don't build pyramids. Today, we have phones, but this is what we do. We don't even use less than 5% of the capability of our phones. But the minute that Bell Canada calls you and says your contract is up and that you're eligible for an upgrade, what do? Let's go get the new one. Yes, Apple releases the new iPhone. People line up outside. What's the new one going to do for you? I don't know. What new feature does it have? I have not a clue. But I want one. Yes? Isn't that how we are as human beings? We want better and better and better. Okay? This need for continuous improvement, therefore, is part of us. So what we're talking about when we say continuous improvement is not something new. This is not something we need to do to our organization. This spirit to continuously improve is already within every single one of us and every single one of our employees within our own organizations. Yes. In fact, this need for continuous improvement is essential to all human progress. Okay. Everything that we know today, all of our knowledge as the human civilization, all of our innovation, and in fact, success of organizations and failure of organizations is simply dependent on this one thing. How much did you continuously improve? Look around us, the organizations that fail, whether it is the Sears that went out of business, or more recently, what's the other store? Nordstrom that went out of business. One simple reason: you can track it back to the fact that they did not continuously improve, continuously change. Okay, the fundamental to every organization's success. Okay. At our own very personal level, this need for continuous improvement also leads to personal satisfaction, right? And personal engagement of your own team members as well. Agree with this? The need for continuous improvement is not therefore new. This is well within us. The passion to do this already exists. The challenge, though, for us, and of course, our customers always want us to do better. Okay? We'll always want more. The minute you provide them a better product, they will say, this is good. Thank you very much. What's next? Right? Give me a better product. Give me a cheaper product. Give me with more features and more colors and more and more and more. Customers always would want more, therefore driving the need for us to continuously improve. The challenge is this, though. Despite the fact that this need for continuous improvement lies within each one of us and within every organization, there are only a few organizations that really excel. In fact, very, very few organizations excel. And I'm going to be provocative here, respectfully provocative to all of us, and say, in my opinion and in my research, I find the vast majority of organizations are stuck in a bubble of mediocrity. Nearly in every industry, you will find but only a few organizations that truly excel. Let's take an example. I'll ask you all, think about an organization that you think does really well in their space, better than any of their competitors. Amazon, potentially. Apple, right? Standing head and shoulder above everybody else. Okay? Anybody else? Very, very good. I love that answer. You're already my favorite. I have a little bias here, don't I? Yes, came through. Yes. Others, anyone else? Any other organization? McDonald's, there's another great one. Incredible how they make the exact same Big Mac for 40 years. The exact same thing. They don't even innovate. And yet become the second largest fast food company on the planet with 38,000 restaurants, open 24/7, vast majority of them. Right? Isn't that incredible? What else? Give me one other. Rolex, there you go. Yes. I would not know. But anyway. Yes. Here's one. What do you think about them? Do you agree? This is the name I was actually looking for. I was hoping somebody would say Google. Do you think Google is a great organization? What do you think? Dependable, right? Well, when I say Excel, well, let's look at where Google is today. What do they do? Fundamentally, what do they do? Core business is search engine. Yes? They are the biggest search engine today, yes? So how come they are the biggest? Is it because they were first? Who was there before them? Yahoo? Yahoo was there before them. Yes, thank you. Who else was there before them? Ask Jeeves. MSN, AOL. There was a whole bunch others. In fact, arguably, Google actually was among the last of the major search engines. They came to the stage almost last. Launched in 1997, and with a very poor launch. Do you know why I say that? Because they were not called Google. You know what they were called? Anybody remember? Their first original name was Backrub. Will you backrub that for me, please? I'm not sure how well that would have gone down in organizations in today's time and age, but they were called backrub.com. Okay? Only to realize less than a year later that this name ain't catchy. I don't think we're getting very far with this in the corporate environment. And so very, very quickly revectored their name to come up with Google. Despite being last on the stage, today their revenue, what was their revenue last year? Anybody know? That is right, $175 billion. 150,000 employees worldwide. They're larger than all the other search engines combined. 175 billion for Google. Where is Yahoo? Yahoo was ahead of them. They were first, they were earlier, they were worldwide before Google actually even arrived on the scene. Where is Yahoo's revenue last year? Take a guess against the 175 of Google. Where is Yahoo? 4. That is how far ahead Google is. Okay? Over 30% of how much revenue they make is straight into their jeans. Very, very, very rich company. Great place to work. One of the most desirable places for them to work. Great product. Great product. The world knows Google today. It is a verb. It's a word in the English dictionary, and they can dare to write their name any which way. Every day they change how they write their name, and we still know what they're talking about. How do they get there? Doing the exact same thing that Yahoo was doing, that Ask Jeeves was doing, that everybody else was doing. They had the exact market, they had the exact technology, the exact same technology, access to the exact same people, the same computers, the same internet. Everything was the same. Was it not? Did they just end up with the brightest software engineers? Something to think about. How do two companies in the exact same industry end up so far apart? $175 billion with 30% profitability versus Yahoo that made 4 with how much profit? 0. They've been up for sale for the last 6 years. Nobody wants to buy them. Look at the difference between them, right? This is the story of Google. But I can say the exact same thing about others. Think about Southwest Airlines versus nearly any other American company in the world. Let me tell you very, very simply. Airlines around the world operate 100% the exact same way. Why? because there are only 3 aircraft manufacturers, basically 4, count them all, Airbus, Boeing, Embraer, and Bombardier. 4 producers. And the way that you've got to fly this aircraft is, guess what? Exactly the same way. You can't fly it anywhere else except to airports, unfortunately. The way that this machine operates is exactly 100% the same. And yet Southwest Airlines, the only airline on the planet that makes any money. In the last 10 years, they have made more money than United, Delta, American, and all other American carriers combined. Number 1, 2, or 3 in customer service every single year. Their on time is better than nearly anyone else. Sorry. Yeah. I think that, you know what? Yes. So they had that one issue, but guess what? So here's the deal. Last year they had a huge issue. Yes. You know what they did? But they're not unique. Delta had the same issue the year before. Air Canada has had this issue for the last 10 years, and so on and so forth, right? Problems occur. But what did Southwest do in the face of a absolutely catastrophic weekend? Yes, what did they do? They told everybody who was flying Southwest that weekend, they said, we're going to give you 25,000 points. Full stop. Whether you were impacted or not, 25,000 points to everybody. And guess what? Right away, all of those dissatisfied customers, what were they saying? This is cool. Thank you. My next flight's free. Right? Because the discomfort of last weekend is already now forgotten, but the fact that forward I get something, right? They've been able to turn that around so very, very well. Customer service right up there, on-time delivery, on-time departure higher than anybody else. Okay? The cheapest rates all across America. They don't fly anywhere else. They're all just in the United States. The cheapest fares, and yet they are the only airline in the United States over the last 10 years prior to the pandemic, 10 years straight, they've had a double-digit growth. Listen to this, a double-digit growth in number of aircrafts and seats and passengers and revenue and profitability. Okay, more than everybody else combined. One last little statistic about Southwest versus all other airlines. If you had $20,000 in your RRSP in the year 1970, I know that's 50 years ago, but hypothetically, 50 years ago, if you had $20,000 and you had put 10,000 of those dollars in Southwest Airlines and 10,000 of those dollars in any other airline on the planet, not just in America, anywhere on the planet, do you know what would have happened to your $10,000 that you put in any other airline? How much would it have been worth today, 50 years later? Take a guess. 0. Absolutely 0. Every single airline on this planet is bankrupt, or has been over the last 20 years. Every single one of them. Nothing. What would have happened to your $10,000 that you put in Southwest? Take a guess. Not 0. Let me give you a clue. Take a guess. $10,000 would have become 5 million. Marco, help me out here. You're way off, Marco. It would have been worth 26 million. They do the exact same thing that United does, Delta does, American does, and everybody else does. This one airline stands head and shoulder above everybody else combined. What do? They've got to be doing something different. They've got to be doing something that works. Do you think you can learn from them? Certainly can. I can tell you the same thing, not just about airlines or software companies. We can talk about the story of Walmart. Started in a small little town in Arkansas called Buttonville. One man starts up a store called Walton's Mart, and then takes on a second store and a third store. 25 years later, when he died, he had 5,000 stores. Today, they're the largest retailer on this planet. Last year's revenue was over $600 billion. Amazon can come and Amazon can go, but you know what? Walmart will always continue to grow. What do? selling us the exact same thing that everybody else does. I compare them here to Target, that was right here in Canada. 2 years, 129 stores, prettier stores, nicer stores, weren't they? Yes? Some of us went to Target, you remember? Most of us drove right past Target and went to Walmart. Okay? In 2 years, $6 billion loss, and they were gone. Do you know what happened to their 129 stores? Half of them were bought out by another company called Walmart. And they open up Walmarts and they're doing well. What is it that Walmart does in the exact same space, manufacturing nothing and selling us everything that they can do and nobody else can? Might be worthwhile thinking about. It's got to be something different that they do. Or we can talk about Dell and Dell computers and how they single-handedly, one man, Michael Dell, in 10 years, tore apart the entire global computer industry. The three largest computer manufacturers, IBM, Compaq, and HP, in 1990, all three of them were bankrupt by the year 2000 by this one company called Dell. What do? Manufacturing pretty much the exact same thing. Computers are computers. How do they do it? Or a company like Coca-Cola that continues to sell us the exact same, completely useless, completely unhealthy, colored, sweetened, flavored water. Nobody else can come up with a concoction like them and earn $20 billion of sales every single year. What is it that Coke does that nobody else can? For 20 straight years, Pepsi had only one vision. What was their vision? Beat Coke. Finally, they said the only way to beat them is by us selling more water, not Coke, right? How do they do it? And of course, I'd say this sort of best for last a little bit. How does Toyota do what they do, right? Head and shoulder above their competitors. The last 70 years, what they have done, really not just rethought through what automotive manufacturing is all about, but what industry is all about, what supply relationships are all about, how they should be managed. So they've rewritten the book on management, okay? With an organization, I mean, I can talk about Toyota till tomorrow morning here, which I'm not going to hesitate, and I'm going to restrain myself. But their performance, and you look at their performance on every level, is unparalleled with nearly any other organization on the planet. Here's an organization that tells their employees, we are 100% behind you. In the last 70 years, their commitment to their employees has been 100%. Not a single Toyota employee has been ever fired in the last 70 years under any condition. The pandemic came right here in Ontario. GM, Ford, Chrysler, and Honda, 4 other manufacturers right here in Ontario, they all fired their employees, laid them off, or let them go. 8,000 Toyota employees in the Cambridge and Woodstock plant. Every one of them was told to go home, stay home. Don't worry, you'll get paid. Okay? How did they do that? How do they still stay so far ahead in terms of just the quality of vehicles, the number of vehicles, their environmental impact, their community and societal impact? How do they do this? There's something secret. There's something secret about, I give you here a whole bunch of organizations. I can continue on. There's so many others that do the exact same thing. There is something that all of these organizations do that others don't. That is what continuous improvement is all about. There is all of these organizations. What distinguishes all these great organizations? What sets them apart is, believe it or not, the awesomeness, I say, of the exact same, very few, very simple, interdependent, but systemic factors. Okay? Every research is pointing us in that direction. It's a set of very, very simple few things that all these organizations do and others don't. Make sense? Yes? Yes? So what are these factors? The starting point for this journey is this. And I call this not even number 1. I call this 0. This is the starting point for us as leaders. And today I'm going to talk to you all as as leaders in your organization, the very first step in this journey of excellence is a leadership commitment to excellence. Excellence is a choice. Okay? Excellence is a choice that is intellectually made by leaders. I'm going to be provocative here, and respectfully, I will say this to you all. In every great organization, we find not necessarily a charismatic leader. And I'm not talking about that one person who makes the decision, but that leader that is able to get their entire organization to say, we're going to be great. Toyota had this to themselves in 1951. We will make the best car. We will not make cars. Even today they say this. We don't make cars. Guess what we make? We make Toyotas. Okay? And every employee says that. I don't work for a car manufacturer. I work for Toyota. When I put the emblem on this vehicle, this to me is sacred, because this is what a customer will sit in and will roll down the 401 in. This will not break down. It is a choice that we make. On the other hand, I say this, many, many, many organizations just do not choose to make that choice. The choice to be excellent. Okay? And therefore, an organization performs at the level that the leaders believe it can perform at. If us as leaders, we look at our organization and our people and say, this organization can perform here, that we can actually do outstanding things, that's what your organization will perform at. But if you don't set that out for yourself and project that on your people and your organization, guess what they will do? They will perform where they do. Excellence is a choice. Excellence is a choice. Okay, I'm actually going to, if you don't mind, Marco, I'm gonna sort of point to you here for a moment and say, I saw this with Marco. Marco says he can't get rid of me, but I gravitated to him because I saw him make that choice. I saw him struggling without that choice. And then there was a time when he says, I don't want this. I want to be the best that my organization can be. And I'm not going to stop till I get there. He made that conscious choice. And he says, whatever it takes, that's what I'm going to get to. It's not by accident. Okay? It is a conscious choice. This make sense? Do you agree with this? Okay, I'll allow you to reflect on that. The second is, once you've done that, you've got to have very clear customer-focused goals. Simple as it sounds, the vast majority of organizations, I'm not talking about anyone in particular, the vast majority of organizations that I've worked with, and I have done this with many, many, many organizations in all sorts of industries, the people who do the work, the single most important asset of every organization, the vast majority of frontline employees have no idea what they're trying to accomplish. Stop an employee on their way out at the end of the day, stop them and say, how did you do today? And they look at you and say, I did my best. How good was your best? How do you even measure success? How do you measure your quality? How do you measure how much you were supposed to do versus how much you did? Most employees have no idea. And I'm talking not just about a manufacturing organization. I have asked the exact same questions to doctors in hospitals and emergency rooms all across Ontario. In conferences with emergency room heads, I have asked doctors, tell me yesterday, you're the head of this emergency room in this huge, big, fancy schmancy hospital downtown. What was the quality of service that you delivered to your employees, to your patients yesterday? They looked at me and said, what does that mean? Exactly. Well, aren't you supposed to know what the quality of your service is? Well, let me define it for you, I said. Can you tell me how many diagnostics you got wrong? How many people died needlessly because you made a mistake in your hospital yesterday? How many people actually came back to the emerge with the exact same condition despite being dispatched or discharged with some treatment plan. And they came back and said, I'm still not better or I'm worse. Do we even know? Do you think the average nurse or doctor or technician in emergency rooms in Ontario know? Most organizations, your employees don't even know. Most organizations, because goal setting, we are often just completely scared sometimes setting goals. If we don't have clear goals, focused on what your customers really want, great organizations realize that success does not come internally. Success comes from outside the organization. Your customers will determine whether you are successful or not. They are the only source of purpose. They are the only reason for being, and they are the only measure of organizational success. If we do not measure this or know this, there is no way for us to know how well we're doing, what our opportunity for improvement is. Okay? And therefore, organization alignment, I underline this because it's important to get alignment. Having goals that the senior leader knows and the top management knows, but nobody else knows, is not worth a dime because it does nothing. The work happens at the front line. If your players on the field don't know what the score is, and only the GM and the coach know how well the basketball player team is playing or how well the football game is going, do you think your players will step up and win and try and win? Right? This is the difference between being an amateur and being a high-performing organization or high-performing team. The power of goal setting. Okay, great organizations set challenging goals for themselves and their organization. Okay, and then help them get there. After all, if you don't know where you want to go by very clear goal setting, guess what? You're probably not going to get there. It is a very simple fact, and yet absent in the vast majority of organizations. I'm going to ask you all to think about this deeply. Do your frontline employees really know what we're trying to accomplish? And are those goals aligned with what your customer actually wants and needs? Okay. They need to be, goal setting is a difficult process. I will tell you this. It's not one that you can just sit one day and write down a sheet of paper and say, here's the goal. It is actually a difficult process because goals need to be bold and inspiring. Your team needs to believe that this is the right goal. They need to see their contribution in this goal. They need to see success clearly in this goal, measured and shared. Goals never ever at an individual level because nobody performs individually. Every individual performs as part of a team, and therefore there must be shared goals. We win and lose as a team. So what if you scored a touchdown? We lost as a team, right? And therefore the power of shared goals and shared accountability. Okay. In setting goals, you got to choose them very carefully. You got to check them very frequently, and do not hesitate to adjust them rapidly, because you will not get them right the first time, the second time, or even the fifth time. Okay. You will get better and better and better at goal setting. This is an ongoing, but one of the most important contributions of leaders in the organization, to have very clear goals. Okay. Good. How's everybody doing? Any questions? Any thoughts? Did I lose you all? Sorry. Yes, please.
I think the word alignment is probably the biggest key word as a group from the top level down, ensuring that goal is aligned, not just from the customer in, but from our internal.
Right. Right. Goal setting has to be done. Excellent point. Goal setting has to be done at the top, but it needs to cascade down to the front line. Keep in mind, everything that every organization achieves is only at the front line. Results, therefore, must flow up, but goal setting must be cascading down. Okay? Very simple concept, not necessarily easy to do, extremely powerful when you get it right. Extremely powerful. Completely changes the game. Good? Marco.
Just to add,
Words, obviously there was script.
So the screens, you saw the numbers, some of them are red, some of them are green. So essentially every day they have a metric that they need to hit. And you'd be surprised at how much they not only motivate themselves to want to hit that metric, but how much they actually compete internally. And then it's almost like they become their own kind of, it's a team, right? They keep everyone accountable, not only from a quality perspective, but knowing that, if you don't hit your metric in your department, you're not making a lot of friends in the next couple of days. And it's happened because now we know who's performing, who's doing what, and we actually get the guys on the floor to initiate and say, hey, this guy's not pulling his weight, or, this department needs help. And we're getting a lot more positive feedback, all because they all want to achieve the goal. I mean, it's just like anything, right? You want to know the score, right? So that's all I needed to add.
Just that power, because and just to add to that, Marco, he talked about red and green. Okay, red and green. Is there a yellow in the middle? There's no yellow. No chicken exit here. Are you there or are you not? I'm nearly there. Are you there? But I'm nearly there, but you're not. No, I'm not. Red. Do you know why? Because everybody hates red. Okay. We think as leaders, we don't like anything red on our reports. Yeah. DIFOT is red. You don't like it. Quality is red. Financials are red. Sales is red. None of us like it. The exact same thing translated down to the front line. Are you red? Your team is red. They will by themselves. They will help each other out because I want a green. As long as that alignment is there, though, Marco, that is the critical thing, that they need to see that this is my game. All right. This is not some arbitrary number that somewhere is now tracking here, but they themselves track, they themselves own. The power of that, incredible. So thank you. Okay, good. Anybody else? No? Right. The next then is, so how do you do goal setting? One really, really interesting and very, very good tool is the balanced scorecard. And I will not have time to go into this in much detail, but in terms of goal setting, I really did want to emphasize the fact that goal setting needs to be on a couple of different dimensions. Okay, and one of the best tools that you can use to do goal setting is a balanced scorecard. And why is this so important, and why do we call it a balanced scorecard? Because the definition of excellence, the definition of doing really, really well, is not single dimensional. Just because you make a lot of money does not mean that you're at excellence. Okay, having very, very good, positive, strong financials for a year or two does not mean that that will remain going forward. Okay, and therefore what you need is a more balanced view of how the entire organization is doing, especially because you have 4 different customer groups: your end customers, your employees, your financial customers, and the community at large. And that is what is captured in the balanced scorecard. We typically say in the world of excellence and lean and Six Sigma that balanced scorecard should be built on, and therefore goal setting should be on 5 dimensions simultaneously. Okay, and what are these 5 dimensions? These 5 dimensions are: you always start with safety. It is the single most important dimension of organizational performance. If your organization is not safe, your employees do not feel safe, then the rest of it, I can guarantee you, will not fall in place. It has to be number 1 priority, and our processes absolutely need to ensure that. The second then is quality for your customers. Are we delivering exactly what the quality needs to be? If you have good quality, only then you can start to think about productivity, which is how much you're doing. If you're making a lot but have very poor quality or even average quality, you will be making a lot of poor quality as well. And therefore, quality always first, then productivity. Safety, quality, and productivity in the world of Lean Six Sigma, we say these are your 3 key dimensions of performance. As leaders, this is really the only 3 things that we can directly impact, okay, or that we need to deliver: safety, quality, and productivity. But how do you do these three? It is through your people. And therefore, the next dimension is what we call human development, your people development, which has three dimensions to it: how much knowledge they have, how much skill they have, and how engaged they are. The mind, knowledge, the skill, their body, and passion, which is soulful. Have we truly engaged them to help us and them get to the highest possible level? Human development. And then right at the end is your financial performance, whether it is cost or it is cash and cost. Your financial performance, simply an outcome. If you do the first three well, through very good human development, your financial will look after themselves. Bill Marriott would say, Bill Marriott was the founder of the Marriott group of hotels. He would always tell his managers, you have only one job: look after your people, look after your employees. Why? Because your employees will look after your guests, and your guests will look after your business. Very simple equation, right? As leaders, that's the only active living force in the organization. Focus on them and things look after themselves. Financials are simply an outcome of doing the basics right. How do we do this then? Once you've set goals, now the question is, how do we perform? How do we actually start to improve? And this is where we find great organizations have excellence in process management. Process thinking and our ability to start thinking of the organization, not in departments, not in tasks, not in silos, or not as a whole big one, but to start thinking about them as how processes are designed, how they are managed, and how they improve. Okay, because we say, and so this is the only three words that I have in red and underline, I think, in this entire deck, but it is that important to me. The single most important thing, the single most important factor in any organization's performance is the quality of their process. The single most important thing. This is the reason why the Toronto Maple Leafs will never win. Okay, their performance will be exactly the same. Well, I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend anybody. I mean, even President Biden, he sort of commented on that, didn't he, in the address of the parliament, right? Even he knows. But the Toronto Maple Leafs will have exactly the same performance. First 10 games are outstanding. The rest of the season is quite average. Right in the end, there's going to be this mad rush. They'll barely make it into the playoffs, and then they'll meet Boston, boom, or first round. Actually, I think nearly anybody in the first round. Usually, it is anybody in the first round or Boston at some stage. And even with Boston, they will take it to game 7. Will be 4-0 up going into the third and crash out. It's the exact same thing. Look at the last 50 years. Why is that? Despite the fact that they've had different people. They've had different GMs, different coaches, different analysts and psychologists and psychiatrists and goalies and forward line and defense line and jerseys. They've changed everything. Performance is the same. Why? Fundamental process is exactly the same. Right? It is the single most important thing. It's even more important than automation, than your technology, and even more important than people. Even more important than people. Okay? Do you agree with that? Even more important than people. If you have outstanding people, brilliant people in a very poor process, what wins? Some will argue that doctors and nurses and those in healthcare represent some of the most brilliant people in society. They had the highest grades in school and college. Finally spent 15 years in medical school to become a doctor. And you put a bunch of them into a hospital, into the emergency room. And what happens? How long do you wait to see a doctor for 10 minutes? Why can they not organize themselves? Why is it that in Canada we have 10,000 people, 10,000 people that die every single year from mistakes made in hospitals? In the United States, this number is estimated at 325,000 people a year die needlessly in hospitals due to errors made by the most brilliant people. Do you know why? Because their processes don't work. On the other hand, somebody talked about McDonald's. McDonald's is an organization. Think about them for a moment. They don't claim they have the best hamburger, do they? But the one thing that they will say is, here is a Big Mac. Here's what it looks like. And whether you buy it anywhere, downtown Toronto, or anywhere on the highway from here to Florida, if you stop anywhere and get a hamburger, get a Big Mac, what do we guarantee you? That it is very, very consistent. Consistent mediocrity. Yes? Do you think it's because they have the best chefs? No. Often considered to be the best place to get a first job. High school students, college, university students. Yes? Minimum wage. And yet, outstanding, brilliant processes. Fries are always absolutely right. The hamburgers exactly the way they're designed to be. Okay? Very average people. I call them average, nobody's bad. Very ordinary people in a brilliant process producing great results. Brilliant people in broken processes produce poor results. That is the power of process management. Okay. And just on that point, and I'm not making this up. I'm going to come back to these 2 points in just a moment. Here's a saying. Here's a saying from a senior leader at Toyota in 1992. This is over 20 years ago. Said, we get brilliant results from average people operating and improving brilliant processes. Our competitors get mediocre results from brilliant people. They go look for the best engineers and put them around in broken processes. Then when they fail, they go hire even more brilliant people. We will always win. It's not the brilliance of people. It's the brilliance of process that gets great organizations to perform at the level that they do. Time for us to now really start to think about and start to get a handle on what our processes are and how do we manage process. I'm going to go back to the previous slide here. Process management comprises of 2 parts. One is, how does a process operate just on an ongoing basis? Process management through simple things like workplace organization. Do you even give your organization a space that looks like it's ready for brilliance work? Okay, a super organized, safe, organized, and clean. Is it there? If not, I'm telling you right now, it won't work. Okay, great organizations understand and realize that the first thing is I have to have a physically good looking, a really, really inviting place for excellence work. Okay, because if that is what your team will see every single day, that is what will tell them what quality of work we do here. Workplace organization, visual management. You've seen some of that hopefully on the plant tour today. How do we ensure that they have all the information that they want in real time? Visual management. Standard work, standardization of work. The best practice, captured, identified, written down, trained, adhered to, audited. Standard work and daily management every day. Work happens on a daily basis. Do we have daily management in place? Very, very simple concepts. How do we get to that point of managing process through these simple concepts? And then identifying problems, which then leads to process improvement through constant problem solving. Problem solving. In many, many organizations, in many teams, for many leaders, a problem is a negative word. It has a negative connotation. Somebody comes to you and say, I have a problem. It's not looked upon as a good thing. In great organizations, problems are a gift. If you have no problem, it's simply because you're not talking about them. Don't tell me there is no problem. You're hiding it. And right there, we start the journey of mediocrity. Okay? In organizations like Toyota, if anybody ever says, I have no problem, they're sent to training. You don't understand how to identify problems then, because there are always problems. If you cannot see the problem, then you have no opportunity to improve. It is only when you do problem solving that you improve. No problems equals no progress. Unacceptable. Problem solving so process improvement through problem solving, waste elimination, and constant Kaizen. Kaizen, Japanese word, first designed by Toyota, simply to say continuously improve, but one small step at a time. The concept of Kaizen, this word probably many of you have heard, and that's why I sort of bring it up here. And I want to emphasize this word. The concept of Kaizen is this. Do we come to work every single day? Does every single member of your team come to work every day and say, we will not let tomorrow be equal to yesterday? What am I going to do today? Not just to do today's work, but to improve this organization. Because improvement cannot be done on Friday afternoon. It cannot be done when the busy season is over and a day will come when we will do continuous improvement. Continuous improvement happens today. What are you going to improve today? You cannot let tomorrow be equal to yesterday. That is the concept of Kaizen, constant Kaizen. That's what excellence in process management is all about. And you see the exact same theme in every great organization, every organization that truly excels. Okay. And finally, I've talked a little bit about this a little bit already, but I want to emphasize the fourth and last key simple concept, key simple factor that we see common in every high-performing organization, a highly engaged workforce. Because everybody wants to do an excellent job. It doesn't matter what job they do. Okay? It doesn't matter how long they've been with the organization, how simple, how trivial a role, a job that they do. What their education level is, what their skill level is, it does not matter. Every single person finds meaning in their life from their work, and they want to do an excellent job. In my work, 75 different organizations around the world, I have yet to meet somebody who has looked me in the eye and said, today, I'm going to screw up, and I couldn't care less. And the only people who have done that or would say that are those who have been pushed to that point, where I've tried enough. I told my boss this. How many times have I heard from people who said, I gave them that idea. I said, when did you give that idea? I gave that idea 20 years ago. And what happened? They did nothing. So why don't you try again? Because I've tried enough. So if they don't care, management doesn't care, why should I? Right? We push them to that point. But everybody wants to do an excellent job. The fact is this, and this is the underlying fundamental philosophical premise of Lean and Six Sigma, is that employees naturally care about the quality of work that they do. Every single one of them does. They will automatically take initiatives to improve it. Okay? Every employee will. As long as they are provided the tools and training, as long as management supports them, listens to their ideas, and gives them just enough empowerment to say, go try it. I'm behind you. Okay? All the work gets done at the front line. Okay? The greatest amount of knowledge lies in the front line. This is a fact that you gotta take away from today as well. Think about this deeply. No manager, no director, no supervisor, nobody at any level of management will know as much as the person whose fingertips actually touch the work that needs to be done. If you want to understand why Bell Canada cannot answer their phones, should you go talk to the director of the call center, the vice president of the call center, the senior vice president of the call center? No. Go talk to who is struggling to answer the phone. And after a while, has just given up because this just doesn't work. They will tell you the problems. The greatest source of knowledge, okay, lies deep in the organization, frontline employees. They know your customers better than anybody else does. Okay, they know the customers better than any one of us does. They know your processes, they know your problems, they often know root cause, and often have excellent ideas for for improvement. What do? We keep it all shut. We just don't let it go. Okay. What does Toyota do? They have a plant in Cambridge, not far from here, 8,000 employees, 5,000 in Cambridge and 3,000 in Woodstock. The 5,000 employees in Cambridge every single year, and I've been to that plant a few times in the last 20 years, every single year, those 5,000 employees come up with 7,500 ideas for improvement. 7,500 ideas generated from frontline employees. And you know, 95% of them are implemented the same year the idea is generated. That's why that plant so far ahead. Nobody's catching up with Toyota. Okay, they're unstoppable. Not because they have brilliant engineers or great managers or great leaders. You know what they have? Very ordinary employees who have been empowered, who are fully engaged, and they have been enabled through very, very simple process. That make sense? Yes? Thoughts, questions, comments? Anybody? Please.
Basically, at every step, and their employees are.
That's it. That's it. You call it innovation, you call it improvement, you call it continuous improvement, you call it Kaizen, any one of those words, for me is fine. It's a very simple concept. I'm going to give you a goal. I'm going to give you a challenging goal, not an easy goal. I'm going to give you a challenging goal. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to empower you and say, go figure this out. Find a way to get me there. And guess what? They'll get you there. Right?
Comment for everybody. If you haven't been on the tour, Toyota, the Cambridge plant, I highly recommend that you choose, start off with your, as we did, our frontline supervisors or managers, and take the tour. Well worth it. Be surprised, just the things that they talk about, kind of to Toyota's form by any means. But it's actually a great experience to go and watch that entire process from beginning to end, and everything that they do. It really opens your eyes, come up with different ideas. And then at the end of the tour, what we had done was we actually had a survey and got some ideas from what we saw, and to see if we could implement some of those things on the floor, just to try. Because obviously we're not full automated line, obviously, when we're making windows and doors that way, but nevertheless, it's a great opportunity to get kind of your senior staff first, managers, depending on the size of your group, but also your next level would go and then pick key employees to go as well. I believe the tour is free.
Yep.
You can just sign up for it. It's a pretty cool tour.
Yep.
A lot of question and answers about, you know, what their tax times is, how they make their vehicles, how things come together. It was a great experience for us.
Yep.
So I recommend that. Anybody
Absolutely.
who hasn't talked through it, go for it.
Yeah.
And just break it down depending on the size of your organization. It's really good, obviously, like Anil had said from the very beginning. If it's a concept that's not adapted by either ownership or top level people, and push down so everyone starts to understand and accept it, it's going to be hard for people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Absolutely. Second that. Really good tour. And it's completely free. They do it 3 times a day, 4 days a week. Anybody can go. If you go online, just look them up and you can just book it online. Very easy to do. Yeah. Okay. So all of this, these simple concepts have actually come together over the last 50, 60 years of good management practice, good process improvement practice, good quality thinking has all come together in 2 methodologies that have been developed in the industry. One, and these terms, of course, you've probably heard about, Six Sigma versus Lean. What is Lean and what is Six Sigma? It really is based on these 4 fundamental concepts that I've outlined to you today. Six Sigma was designed by Motorola in the 1980s in the face of very serious financial trouble. 2 years in a row, they lost billions of dollars and finally realized, what do we need to do about this? Improve quality, they said. And therefore, we need to find a way of improving quality on an ongoing basis by engaging every single employee in the organization. It was focused on the elimination of defects by looking at process variation, which creates high customer satisfaction. This is a common theme with every organization everywhere. There is a lot of variation in process, and process variation is what causes defects. Okay, Six Sigma helps to focus on defects, eliminate defects, improve quality, and therefore the rest of it starts to fall in place. On the other hand, the second methodology that was developed in a completely different part of the world, completely different industry at a completely different time is called Lean. It was developed by Toyota, and that's why my my fascination for this organization. In 1950, completely bankrupt. Okay, in 1950, let me tell you just very, very quickly. Toyota was a very, very small producer of very poor quality cars. They used to make one car a day, 200 cars in a year in the year 1950. Very poor quality, nobody wanted to buy them. They were completely bankrupt to the point where they could not meet payroll. Finally had to fire a third of their workforce and ask the rest for a 10% pay cut. But they were unionized, and the union said, when they went to the union and said, I need everybody to take a 10% pay cut, you know what the union said? Some very choicy words, I am assuming in Japanese, but they basically said, no, thank you very much. And so it led to a strike. Toyota basically died in 1950. But instead of just giving up, their leadership actually said, we failed. We as a leader, we failed. Mr. Toyota, who was the owner of the company, his name was on the building, his name was on every car. He took personal accountability for this, resigned as the president of the company, said, I failed, and therefore I will not run this company. He continued to own the company, was chairman of the board till he died in 1964, but he never ran the company again, taking personal accountability for that failure, and started their journey by focusing on quality, the elimination of waste, because there is waste everywhere, improve flow in the process, and engagement of frontline employees. They said, this is going to be done by our frontline employees, the very people that we fired, the very people that we said you need to take a 10% pay cut, the very union that said, no, thank you very much, are the people that we will actually use, say, help me get better. Okay, and in 1951, signed an agreement with their union to say, we will never, ever again make that mistake. We will never again fire another Toyota employee. And that is where they've stood true to that principle till this day today. Last year, Toyota produced 10 million cars in a year, going from 200 to 10 million cars. The largest, most successful automotive company on the planet. Okay, often argued one of the best managed, best well-run companies. Both of these methodologies, developed in different parts of the world in different industries, have come together over the last 15, maybe 20 years or so. Practitioners have realized that Lean and Six Sigma together as a toolbox, as a comprehensive way of looking at improvement, but also looking at good management principles, right? Has become the dominant process management and process improvement methodology. In the end, I'm going to say to all of you, I will leave you with this thought: anything is possible. Your organizations, leaders in the organizations that you lead, for you all, anything is possible. Today's time and age, we are at a unique time in human civilization where anything is possible. Today, we are bound only by human imagination. Can you think? Can you imagine it? And what your organization will become is what you will imagine today, because your reality is always created twice. First in the minds of the leaders, and then empowered and got you there through the work of your employees. What you will become tomorrow is the result of your imagination today. We are bound only by our own imagination, okay? We are powered by the speed of technology, tremendous amount of technology all around us, which you can use and help you get there. We are connected to the entire human society. And it's this connectivity that will allow us all to move forward together. And this is the reason why I'm so excited about the fact that we've come together today, opened our doors and said, well, let's learn from each other, because we all win together. Toyota does these free tours all around the world, not just here in Cambridge, around the world. And it's not only to their non-competitors. The first people that they invited into their plants was GM, Ford, Chrysler, Honda, all of those people, and said, come, learn from us. Because guess what? If you will learn from us, you will do better. And when you do better, we will learn from you. And we will all do well together. We don't win by ourselves. We win together. The industry wins together. That connectedness of the human society, access to nearly all human knowledge, right on our phones. This is what we are gifted with in today's time and age. The ability to achieve anything that we aspire. That's the real question. What do we aspire? Thank you. Thank you. That's all I wanted to talk to you about. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Just a few minutes over time, I think. We're supposed to go to 1. Yeah. We're good to go. Microphone works. Yes. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. We have probably about 30 minutes or so for Q&A, final questions, thoughts, comments, feedback, or just additions to the conversation. So I'll open up to questions. Only easy questions.
Just
questions are never easy, so that's why I'm not going to even pick you.
It's more, everyone's going to leave here with their own kind of thoughts, and they're all going to take away their own kind of value from these presentations. But more basically, we've been talking about processes and people. So if I'm new to this and I'm going back to my organization, what would you focus my effort on? Building trust, building the community, building your relationships with your existing people, and then kind of going on the process trajectory? Or would you say, hey, I'm going to audit all my processes and then try to convince people that this is the way to start doing things?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my God, it's a good question. Yeah, always, Marco, you keep me on edge all the time. And so I'm going to try and deflect this question a little bit. So I'm going to go to another question that actually was asked of me during just as we started the break. I can't remember who it was, but somebody came up to me and said, well, we should talk about how important it is to get the organization ready, readiness of the organization, right? And so maybe this dovetails into that question as well. What is the starting point? I talked about it as step 0, right? The very first thing is to make that conscious choice, that intellectual choice as leaders. First off, we got to understand what this journey is all about. Okay. And that is the real readiness that I say the organization needs to get to. Your employees will get ready really quickly. Your processes will improve forever and ever. There's never an end point to that. The enemy has been found. And the enemy is us. Okay, and this is not my view. Nearly every management scholar and scientist and researcher, Peter Drucker said in his book, he started his book by saying organizations fail due to managerial failure. Their employees will do what they're told to do. So you want to get the organization ready for this? First, we got to get ready. Okay, the enemy has been found. It is us, right? And so I think that's the starting point. Without trust, the pace of your progress is directly impacted by the level of trust we have. Okay, and that trust then translates into engagement. And this is definitely a difficult area to look at. and for leaders to wrap their head around. But this is what differentiates the organization. I'd say your process, and so coming to your question, Marco, I'd say your process and looking at your process, you should do much later. Do you know why? Because if you build trust and engage your employees, they will do that for you. They know the process well. Okay, they will actually tell you how that process should be, needs to be designed. That make sense? Yeah. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that maybe I was initially when I started,
I was too metric driven. And, you know, I just didn't understand why people weren't hitting the metrics or why I was getting so much pushback. I attributed it to a number of different things. But then I just realized, you know, it's oversimplifying, but they're just people. You know, you treat them with respect, you know, you listen to them, they feel valued, and then you'd be surprised what they start telling you, because maybe the previous management wasn't open as they could have been, or maybe they had made a suggestion and it wasn't nurtured in the right way.
Right.
But you have, like you said, you know, I think the trust is really important. And I think from my organization standpoint, the way we've done that is really simply, I mean, we've put together a social committee, you know, we buy some lunches, we buy some breakfasts, you know, we get them t-shirts, we get them hats. Obviously, you know, the manager inside me doesn't want to spend money, but the value that we get from those small gestures is significant.
Yeah.
And you can't really put a price on that.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. Others, any other questions, thoughts, comments? Yeah. And so what we're going to do is thank you. We'll pass this around. This is not for here, but for the online. Okay.
So Chris.
It's on.
Okay. So you gave the example of Southwest Airlines for 50 straight years being the leader in a congested space. Competitors are still, so United, American, Delta, etc. If you're a financial stakeholder in one of these companies for 50 years, seeing there's a clear leader year after year after year, what do you think is the barrier or the hurdle why those other companies wouldn't be forced to or try to or attempt to adopt the strategies that Southwest continues to employ year after year after year?
Right. Isn't that really it's almost like a $6 million question here. But why are we talking about Southwest Airlines? I'm going to say the exact same thing about Yahoo. What about this? Why doesn't Yahoo Google why Google does well? Right? What do? It's all out there. Why don't GM, Ford, and Chrysler go tour Toyota and ask and go and see how they do what they do?
I answer, but what would be the financial? I don't know the answer, but it would be interesting to know what the financial positions were of the leaders of that time. Was the management at Google flush with cash, with wonderful parachutes and wonderful government subsidies in the event that their business failed? Or were they fighting for their lives or trying to create something special as opposed to their competition, which maybe had guaranteed compensation packages regardless of the performance of the company? So I wonder if that has anything to do with it.
But we don't see that with any organization. I mean, Google did not have special funding, right? They were all exactly the same. The starting point was the exact same. But this is not just the past. Even today, we've known about lean. Lean was first documented in 1989. 1991, Womack's book first came out where the word lean was first used about how the Toyota production system is working. That was 32 years ago, right? In the past, at least 20 years, we have a very good understanding of what Toyota's fundamental management philosophy is, what their process design, how that works. We understand their people and partner relationships. we understand their capability of doing problem solving. Nearly none of those four have been seen in GM, Ford, Chrysler, and others.
When Toyota embraced that, what was happening the day before they embraced it?
Well, so I told you about Toyota. They were bankrupt.
If Toyota had a lifeline, Japanese government say, hey, don't worry, we'll write you a check for $130 million. Would the leadership have gone down?
Right. Well, so yes, I mean, okay, so is it that I have the security, and therefore I'm not going to improve? Two things I'm going to say here for us to think about. So first off, Toyota actually did get a government bailout in 1951. They were bankrupt. They asked their union for a 10% pay cut, went on strike, plant shut down. 1951, how did they start up? They actually went to the Japanese government, and the Japanese government gave them a bailout. Japanese government also got them their first large contract. 5,000 cars were needed or small trucks were actually needed by the US Army as the US went into war in Korea. And Toyota got that contract by the help of the Japanese government. So if you actually look at it, there's plenty of parallels here between what happened to GM and Ford and Chrysler in 2009 versus where Toyota was in 1951. And then if you expand this, other Japanese companies, here's the other, I think, fascinating fact, is that there are other Japanese companies, other Japanese automotive companies. Now, many people say, well, you know what, Japanese automotive companies have done well. The reality is that none of them have done well, except for Toyota and Honda. Honda is 10% the size of Toyota, but everybody else has done very, very poorly. In 1992, Nissan, which is Japan's largest automaker, right, or sell the most, number one car in Japan is Nissan, declared bankruptcy in 1992 and are now an Italian company. Okay, Mazda declared bankruptcy a few years later and was taken over by Ford. Mitsubishi, Suzuki, Isuzu, Subaru, all the others have struggled in the Japanese space, right? As Japanese automakers. It was a choice. I go back to first principles. It was a choice that these organizations make. The leaders of these organizations actually make that choice. The environment that they have all been in, I would say, are relatively, there are plenty of parallels, right? And you see the same thing in airlines. You see the same thing in airlines, right? United and American and Delta, they continue to struggle. While they have an example of here's an airline that actually does it right, which is why I started with is principle zero has got to be we us as leaders saying, I make this choice. I make to do what we need to do to win this game. Did we answer your question? A little bit?
I don't think it was posed so much as a question, more of an observation. You know, if the model is there and continues to work, why would other people not?
Yeah.
Either I can understand on the short terms.
Yeah.
Leadership could be stubborn, they could be set in their ways, but if you have, I'm sure the management and the leadership of United, Delta, et cetera, has changed over the last 50 years, and they continue to go on. It's not as successful as Southwest.
Yep. Yep. It is a paradigm shift. In my view, and some of this is my view, and some of this is backed with by what management scholars have said. What we're talking about today is a paradigm shift in the role of leaders, right? The space of management and leadership by itself. So let me also tell you, the space of management and leadership, not just in Canada or North America, this is a relatively new domain. How do we prepare? So let me push you all a little bit here, be a little bit controversial maybe, by saying, how do we how do we prepare managers and leaders for their role? I need somebody to run some wires here to this light. Do you know what we do? We put them through an extensive program and say, ultimately, you are now certified to run this wire. Yes, I want you to build a building for me. I'm going to put you through some training and make sure that you have the qualifications that allow you to now do this. What makes a manager? What makes a leader? What leadership training model, management system? What process do we give our managers and leaders in the organization? A good worker becomes the supervisor. A good supervisor becomes the manager. Keep promoting people till the point where they get to incompetence. Oh, you don't do this well. Oh, but I'm already promoted you, so you better just stay there. I'm being a little, controversial here, but that management theory has been out as well. We actually keep promoting people to the point of incompetence. But the more important thing is we don't even really have a good system of leading people or training people to be leaders and managers, right? So that paradigm shift is still in its infancy, I will say. And then we wonder, well, why doesn't GM, Ford, and Chrysler move on Toyota? And they have Toyota as an example of showing this is how it needs to operate. Okay, Toyota said, well, one last little bit here. So Toyota has said this from day one, been very open about it. We have 100% commitment to our employees. They're our single most important asset. We will continue to do everything to protect our employees. A Toyota employee in North America is 26 times more trained than the average auto worker. 26 times more trained, extremely highly capable, trained, knowledgeable. They say, we're not going to let them go because we've invested in them. 3 weeks ago, Ford announced their quarterly results. Results were not quite as per, what should we say, analyst expectations. So along with the announcement came a side note. Well, don't worry about the financial results. 3,000 employees are being let go in Europe. Everything's going to be okay. They still haven't got it. That paradigm shift, right? They're just not making.
A little small fact. So
yeah.
The CEO of Southwest last year made $5.7 million. And the CEO of American Airlines made $7.3 million. So the CEO of American Airlines is making more than the Southwest fellow. So perhaps he doesn't have the incentive to go down the journey. Yep. I mean, so that paradigm shift once again, right, where it's not the hero at the top that makes it, right? And the whole, I mean, now you're taking into a different space of much has been said in the last little while about how CEOs and how much more they make than their frontline employees, right? While nearly nobody knows who the CEO of Toyota is, and he certainly does not make 250 times their frontline employees. They're very, very focused on their frontline employees. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah, but thank you for that. That's exactly it.
It's harder to get started on leader, to get them involved, or get them where the harder to teach them about nutrition, things like that. But it's some of the experience you've had trying to bring lead in that you felt were much harder than others. That's a fun thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely is great question. So thank you for asking that. I'm gonna answer this maybe in two ways. First off, it is always hard. Okay, in fact, recent research is showing that probably 60 to 70% of organizations that say we're going to deploy lean, they fail in long-term sustainable implementation. 60 to 70%. Okay, many have argued that this is a Toyota system. It will not work outside Toyota, right? Not backed by research, but simply backed by people who give up and say it doesn't work. And the reason is simply this. Toyota has understood that this is a long-term journey. The point is not where you need to go. The point is where you are today. And are you prepared to take that next step forward? So if organizations start by saying, I want to be the next Toyota, I say, let's just start becoming the next step to improvement from where you currently are. You're really, really, really far away. So it's not about comparing yourself to Toyota. It is about comparing yourself to just who the best you can be. Okay. And as leaders, that is really what our role here has got to be. The definition of excellence, therefore, is can I get to my highest possible level based on what my current capability is? Okay. If you want to get higher than that, then you're going to build additional capability. So I think this journey has to be thought about, and that's why we call it continuous improvement. It will start today. It will never end. Okay. This is not about the finish line. This is about saying, how do I make tomorrow better than yesterday, better than today, one step at a time. Okay. I think that's the organization that actually that embraces that constantly moving, improving journey is the one that actually will win. Yeah. Shilad, you had your hand up. I'm sorry I overlooked.
Change and leadership. And just because you just came back from Dubai, I was going to give an example of the nation transformed in 30 years. If anybody has looked at pictures of Dubai 30 years ago, basically together, their whole revenue is 4%. Look what they have done. They have not only transformed, the technology, but they've also transformed their people. I mean, Dubai is a Muslim country, and look what the tolerance they've built in there. So when you talk about change, it has to be driven by leadership. The leader could create a vision for a country. So it's just, I think that's very critical.
Yeah, I'm done. Sorry, I'm so terrible at this. I'm sorry, total failure. Yeah. So thank you, Shahad, for that. And so I should have actually introduced Shahad. Shahad and I worked together in as part of Lean Excellence Canada. I've known Shahad for many years. He worked at Royal before my time at Royal. Yes, but where he's a dear friend. So thank you for joining us today. Sorry, let me try and do this right at least once.
Thank you. Also, just to add to that, is it possible also culturally, if you look at a Western world versus an Eastern world, and how they basically govern their children to start from the, is that a possibility?
Awesome. So very good question. So this has been extensively talked about, researched. Is this a Japanese thing? Okay, does this have anything to do with Japan? And actually, extensive research has shown this is very little to do with Japan. It is very little to do. Even there have been researchers who've said, does people in Japan follow Buddhism? Does Buddhism have an impact on this? Is just the teachings and the approach of Buddhism have an impact on Toyota's ability to do what they do? And the answer is very clearly no. Toyota has replicated that model everywhere, right? One of our future sessions, maybe I'll tell you a little bit about Toyota's story, but very quickly, I'll tell you their first plant in North America was a plant that they took over from GM in a place called Fremont, California. It was GM's worst plant. They were so sick and tired of their employees. They're 25% absenteeism. People were drinking on the job all the time. Everybody came with a hip flask. This is a GM plant in Fremont, California in the 1980s. They had a hip flask that they would bring and be drinking on the job. And if you ever ran out, there was never a problem because people were walking up and down the aisleways in the plant. There were vendors that would walk up and down with a cart selling cigarettes, marijuana, which was at that time not legal, chilled beer, whiskey, rum, vodka, wine. Right. And despite that, had 25% absenteeism. And it did not end there. These people were also, in addition to what was on the cart, they were happy to organize a few happy moments for you in a few quiet corners of the plant. This was Fremont, California, okay, in 1980. GM had enough and they said, we're going to shut down the plant. Guess what Toyota did? They said, we're going to take over this plant. And they went into a joint venture with their arch rival, took over that plant. GM said, fire these employees. The union told Toyota, fire these employees, get new employees. They will not let you succeed. Guess what Toyota said? This is not about the employees. This is about poor management. They hired every one of them back. 2 years later, that plant became America's most productive and highest quality lowest cost producer of cars. Fremont, California. NUMMI was the #1 plant in 1983 and remained that way till 2008. Every single year, they were the #1 plant in America for all those years, run by Toyota. You know what happened to that plant? In 2008, GM filed for bankruptcy and they got out of the joint venture. Toyota had to give up the plant as well. And so they sold it to a company called, that's right, Tesla is made out of that plant. It was the worst plant for GM. They turned it around, American workers. Okay, that proved to us, dispelled that myth that this has to do with Japan. This has nothing to do with Japan. If this had to do with Japan, then Suzuki would not have been where they are, Mazda would not have been where they are, and Nissan would not have been where they are, right? Yeah. Okay, final 1 or 2 questions. No? And if not, then maybe I'll hand it back to our host. Anybody? Yes? Okay, awesome, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Well, terrific job, Mr. Gupta. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. This is a special event. This is the first Ontario chapter education session. So our next one is online. Please, again, have a look online at the dates, the FenCan website, and follow our social media for dates confirmed. As well, I'd like to say again, thanks to our sponsors. Without them, we wouldn't be here today. Thank you very much. Thank you, Marco, for the tour. It was fantastic. David, you did an awesome job too. Even contrary to what Marco says. It's all good. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it, and travel well and be safe. Thank you.